Welcome to Out of Time. It's episode 4. I'm your host, Nash DeLorean, and we are back, baby. Out of Time is a show about memories and music and movies and all the things that we watched on TV growing up as kids and how those things shaped us into the adults we are today. It's about the overlaps between my memories and your memories. It's about the overlaps between someone else's memories and your memories. And it's about all of that shared common ground we have while exploring kind of the depths of the outer rims of that Venn diagram a little bit together. So if you haven't watched any of the old episodes, I definitely recommend going back and checking them out on YouTube. We have 3 episodes so far. Those are available now on YouTube. Links are somewhere on my Twitch profile. I don't know. And if you have seen all of them, welcome back again. I really appreciate you hanging out with us. I'm going to introduce my guest for tonight's 4th episode, my good friend Mark. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm good.
So we just watched I'm Not Okay by My Chemical Romance.
You like D&D, Audrey Hepburn, Fangoria, Harry Houdini, and croquet. You can't swim, you can't dance, and you don't know karate. Face it, you're never gonna make it.
I don't want to make it.
I usually kick off or end the shows with music videos, and Mark picked this one. So I'm assuming that it holds some significance to you.
Oh God, that.
Tell us about it.
I love that video. That music video is still one of my favorites, just for all the different references. But I was just gonna say for the eye rub and then the shoulder is probably like one of my favorite parts of the music video.
Yeah.
You know? You got something in your eye.
I mean, who remembers 2004?
Right.
And and being, just being the weird kid just because your parents were one way or you were forced to dress one way.
I think that it's really important to not always have all the answers, but at least to tell other people, like, I'm here with you. And My Chemical Romance was really good at that when we were that age, like putting words to those feelings that you were sometimes having and making you feel a little bit less alone. And especially deep into the Bible Belt, that can be really important.
Oh, yeah.
I remember watching that on Fuse. I was dejected that there were not music videos on MTV anymore, and they never played rock stuff either. And we finally got Fused on I think when we had Dish or DirecTV or something.
Yep.
And I was like, oh man, that was the kind of stuff that they played, and I was so into it. You grew up with cable like pretty consistently, right?
Yeah.
See, that's really funny.
The old 33 and 63 and 32 and 50 and just all the different channel numbers that existed over the years. And
yeah, so you grew up with cable really consistently, and then you've been a cord cutter ever since you've been on your own, haven't you?
Yep. I just don't see a point in paying extra when I could just use my internet and watch what I want to watch without commercials. Like, that's just kind of my...
Yeah, it's like a no-brainer, right? Folks our age, like, grew up consistently with cable, and then we've just, like, totally rejected it within our own lifetime.
I still go to my parents' house, and periodically I'll be, like, watching, helping with something, and my sister's got Jag on TV, and I'm like, how long has it been since this show's been canceled?
Jag. What, do they still play it on USA or something?
I don't know. I don't even know what channels it's on. I just look over and I'm like, what?
I remember watching Jag when I was little. My parents watched it all the time. I couldn't tell you anything about it. I couldn't name a character. I don't know where it takes place. I at least know like NCIS is in like Washington, D.C. or whatever, I don't know anything about Jag. I feel like I probably watched a shitload of Jag growing up.
Lawyers essentially in the Navy and it's just like, it's a weird kind of premise of like.
It was kind of like Boston Legal in the Navy.
Yep.
A little
but there
bit.
was still action because it was the Navy, so
Yeah.
You had that.
Boston Legal meets NCIS.
Before NCIS was the thing.
That's right. I do remember that. No wonder I didn't remember it or care for it as a child. I probably bailed. I probably pieced out when Jag came on. That's probably actually what the answer is.
I mean, what was it? I remember watching that and like Walker with my dad, and I was just like, all right, like.
I do love Walker. I love me some Walker. At least I think I do. I haven't watched it in 15 years, but it's probably still whips ass.
Well, it didn't age well.
I'm gonna make my kids watch Jag when they do something wrong.
I mean, I was gonna say, you could go for that, or go for the more wholesome stuff, like make your kids watch VeggieTales.
My kids are not gonna watch VeggieTales. No. I like to believe that I'm gonna somehow steer my children away from watching any kind of annoying bullshit, but I know that's not gonna happen. I did watch VeggieTales and Barney, and I remember never really being like into VeggieTales. It was just like there. I had a couple of tapes, but it was never like, oh, I want to watch a Veggie. You know, it was just like, I remember being very indifferent toward it, like whatever. But I fucking loved Barney. Barney was very serious. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you define your generation to yourself, like what the criteria in your head are, what years or whatever, and sort of how it differs from generations before and after years in your head.
So, like, I kind of think of my generation. It's a little bit weirder. Like, I think it's just kind of more I know generations are kind of defined differently, but I think of like a kind of a 5 year. So like 85 to 90, kind of what that was like and kind of how I grew up, because my sisters, first one was born in 85, second one was born in 88, and I was born in 90. So we kind of all had like this impact on how we were raised. I mean, my family was very religious. There were certain things that we couldn't do. There were other things that we could do, and so it was just kind of limited there. But I honestly watched some TV, like certain things like Star Trek, things like that. But honestly, I played more video games growing up, just because that's what my parents were like, okay, that's fine for some reason. But like, there were some limitations to what video games I could play. Like at the time, you know, it was Pokemon is the devil, which is weird because now my mom plays Pokemon Go with my nephew.
I remember that. Yeah.
Originally, I couldn't watch Yu-Gi-Oh. I couldn't. Do you guys remember the D&D phase of like D&D is evil and things like that? Yeah. And so that kind of went away as well. So it's just kind of been this whole thing of like this transition into kind of growing up now. And it's like my nephew, who is 17 years younger than I am, plays Pokemon, plays Yu-Gi-Oh, can watch, you know, different things. And I think that's also the influence that our parents made on us, where me and my sister are like, no, I was more repressed because I didn't get to do these things, and I hid behind hid behind your back just doing it instead. Right. So I just want them to be able to do it, enjoy it, and have fun. Just some things that you and I have kind of talked about. Like, I didn't really get into YouTube when it first happened, but you kind of did. And so we've kind of talked about that influence. And then you look at Jordan, who is 2 years younger than I am. And she could talk about YouTubers that have been from the beginning and that she's followed or that she stopped following because of drama and things like that.
Yeah.
But, and I never got into that. And so I'm kind of in the weird generation. Like, I think, you know, it was kind of talked about last week, you know, with going outside and playing. Like, I did more of that probably as well, besides as much watching TV. TV was more or less like, this is after dinner, this is what we're doing.
We talked a little bit about like stuff that was banned, and in our house, you know, there were things that I wasn't allowed to watch too. And so you mentioned that you weren't allowed to watch Rugrats. But that you were allowed to watch. You watched a lot of Power Rangers, and for me, it was like, I was not allowed to watch Power Rangers. I think my mom was afraid that it would like make me hit kids, and so I never watched Power Rangers. But I did hit kids anyway, and so, you know, over time, I think she got a little bit more loosey goosey on that stuff. But yeah, I've talked in a couple of previous episodes. I've talked about the Satanic Panic and like that influence on the things that we watched when we were growing up, the things that we consumed, and you hit on a little bit there with the Pokemon and D&D and that stuff. That was all part of that, and kids weren't allowed to watch like Harry Potter or read those books either.
Or read it, yeah.
But
the Da Vinci Code was fine.
That's what I was gonna say. That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's so funny how like spottily all of it, and you know, no disrespect to any of our parents, yours or mine or anybody else's, because they're all doing the best they can with the information that they have at any given moment. I get that, but it's so funny how like everybody's who grew up in like a household with banned stuff, it's so spotty, and it's so funny like what was let through, because we were kids, we were going to watch something, and we would usually find things that skirted those lines or whatever, but in one way or another ended up being worse.
Oh yeah.
It's so funny what is and isn't allowed. What was the deal with Rugrats? Talk about that a little bit.
It was something specifically, I think it had to do with specifically Angelica's character, actually. Like, just how bratty that child was. My mom was like, no, like, nope, you're not watching this. Like, and it's one of those where it's just like,
I wouldn't want my kid probably to like be anything like that either, you know, if I really thought about it.
I also think that the main reason why I was able to watch Power Rangers again, I was the only boy.
Yeah.
So they needed to like throw in some masculinity into what was going on, since I was just with my sisters and my mom and one of my grandmothers at the time.
It was an estrogen party.
Yep.
Needed you to Mighty Morphin shut the fuck up.
Essentially.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Stuff that I wasn't allowed to watch, I actually got to watch at my cousin's, which I always thought was hilarious, you know, and so we watched like the Batman movies and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and that stuff over there. My cousin, as he got a little bit older, got like fucking sick of it, and I like still wanted to watch it.
The thing with like cousins and like going to do that.
Yeah.
Every year for a long time we would go to Galveston, because that's where my grandparents lived, and like everybody would get together and we'd play games. So that's where I got to play Pokemon for the first time. So I must have been like 9 or 10. And in like a 2-day span, I beat it. And I was like, okay, I love this. Why can't I play it? And so that's just kind of that whole process again, is when you said like cousins would let you do stuff. Yeah.
Shout out to cousins. Shout out to all the cousins out there.
Mortal Kombat.
I was just going to...
Like, oh, man. It was the SNES version that didn't have any blood, but the Sega version did. And then the next SNES version, you could unlock it. Pokemon was bad, but you know what? Let's decapitate
Mortal
someone,
Kombat's
and
fine.
it's fine.
Yeah. Well, because they're not demons, they're people, right? They're demons. So it's funny because I know about all the Mortal Kombat drama, and I like know about the legend around that and everything that happened and how parents reacted or whatever, but that was just totally off my family's radar because we didn't even have like a Super Nintendo, so it didn't matter. I didn't really get into fighting games until I was literally in high school, was really when it was like I actually started to play fighting games with one of my girlfriends in high school, because she taught me how to play Tekken, and then it went downhill from there. Oh god, I just lost my train of thought thinking about getting my ass kicked as a 17-year-old by my like girlfriend in Tekken. It was embarrassing. What were some shows that you remember watching when you were kind of littler as a kid? Some of the first shows that you remember growing up and watching?
One of them was specifically, like, I brought up The Adventures of Gummi Bears, which that was like almost, I think that was almost before my time, but it still was something that just re-aired on Disney. And it was so weird. Like, I remember trying to go back and like look into that the other day, and I was just like, wow, this is like standard Disney animation. And if I remember correctly, the production quality was not great. Like, it was not.
No. That's all that's all I remember about it. It was like the theme song triggered a memory for me, and I was like, oh yeah. And then I, was skimming a couple episodes, and it was like, the fuck is this? Like, what the fuck is this about even? It's like, what if the Smurfs, but bad?
Yeah. Disney's takeaway from the Smurfs 20 years later.
Dashing and daring, courageous and caring, faithful and friendly, with stories to share. All through the forest they sing out in chorus, marching along as their song fills the air. Gummi bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. High adventure that's beyond compare. They are the Gummi Bears. Magic and mystery are part of their history, along with the secret of gummy berry juice. Their legend is growing, they take pride in knowing the fight for what's right in whatever they do. Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. High adventure that's beyond compare.
I don't miss TV show intros being that long.
It's pretty long.
Yeah, I was just like, this is still going.
It's like Smurfs and Care Bears had a baby that was really ugly and bad.
Yep, 100%. 100%. And then it just, talks about like the gummy juice or whatever. Like I was
What the fuck is that shit? I don't even know. I watched almost 2 whole episodes. I don't know what the fuck it is.
Like I said, production was not great, but I just remember watching that a lot as a kid. And it may have been that my sisters liked watching it. That may not necessarily mean that I liked watching it. It was on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I have like the same. It was just.
It was there.
It's just on.
This is still one of my favorite shows to this day, and I know it's cheesy, but that's why I love it too.
So fucking good. Can't believe I fucking grew up to be her.
Oh, brilliant! The Power Rangers.
I mean, to be fair, you also grew up to be Squidward as well.
Yeah, kind of a hybrid.
Yep.
I've asked on the past couple of shows about like VHSs that people have all worn out. Almost everybody's answers have been Disney movies. I'm going to jump out on a limb here and I'm going to assume that yours is also a Disney movie.
I have 2.
Hit me.
The first one is a Disney movie. It was The Little Mermaid. You can actually, this is a fact I learned from my mom. She had it set up to where she knew at what part during the movie she needed to go start dinner before my dad would be home. And it would finish by the time dinner was done. We wore that sucker out. Just to kind of, date my family a little bit and myself. The other one was Independence Day with Will Smith.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. That's a good one.
Because my dad ended up buying it for my uncle and my grandpa, and then they gave it to my grandparents first. And my aunt was like, "Oh, yeah, this movie's so good, we have it." And my dad was just like, "All right, well, I guess it's mine," and just like took it.
That's so funny. That's a good one. That's super 90s.
And then I also think we actually didn't have a legitimate copy. It was one that my dad recorded from TV of Men in Black that also got worn out. So, I mean, it was just the...
do you remember the point in The Little Mermaid where your mom, do you remember what that point was?
It would be kind of towards the end part. So it was probably when he was, driving the ship into Ursula.
Okay.
It would be at that point or, a little bit before she would get up and then she would go through the process, because after that you still had the wedding scene and then all that,
right?
Kind of that process. And so it was so funny. She's talked about it before, and I was just like, I never noticed, but granted, I was young.
Yeah, you're,
And so,
do you remember the first movie that you went to see in theaters, or at least one of the first?
I do. It comes down to, because it was The Lion King or Toy Story, and or Toy Story. I remember seeing both, but
right.
And it was funny enough. It was the movie theater that I ended up working at in high school.
So was it kind of trippy to work in the same theater that you kind of grew up going to see movies in?
I mean, kind of, yes. I remember, I think I've talked to you about this as well. The first movie I saw in the theaters was with my family, and that was, The Lion King, Toy Story, kind of that era. And then when Monsters, Inc. came out, that was the first movie I got to see by myself without, a parent. And so, I think that had a bigger impact. But then going back to it, I will say this. One of my favorite comments when I went through the interview process at that theater is I was like, I've seen a lot of movies here. I saw The Lion King in here when it was in theaters, and those seats haven't changed.
Missed those seats. I think this was definitely my favorite song from The Lion King when I was little.
Oh, 100%.
Was this yours?
Yeah.
You and a couple other people now have mentioned that it was the first, or among the first, movies that folks have seen in the theaters, and I think we must have been just right at that right age.
This would have actually been the first one, because based on what I'm seeing is Toy Story was 95.
Yeah, Toy Story was after.
And this was 94, so this would have been the first one, which I always forget. For some reason, I think they were kind of hand in hand. I also feel like movies were in the theaters for a lot longer when we were kids than now. I feel like it's, it was 6 months to a year, I feel like, and then we got it on VHS.
Yeah, they used to be. I mean, they would be in the theater on a first run for a while, and then they would run on in the dollar theaters for even fucking longer. Like, you could see.
I mean, there
movie.
were some movies that you could just go buy at Walmart for X amount, or you could just go watch it at the dollar theater.
Yeah, exactly. Like they would run well past their like physical home media release on VHS or DVD or whatever. What were some of the shows that you watched a lot when you were like got a little bit older, that age, like cartoons and stuff or whatever?
Cartoons and stuff. So let me try to think. Like, obviously, like in the 13 range, that was when really Yu-Gi-Oh hit America at that point. And like, yes, my mom was still the same way, but then my grandma bought me cards, and so what are you gonna do at that point? So they let me play. Yeah, it's too late now. And that's really when I started kind of picking up more. I think more anime kind of started coming in. Like at that point, that was things like Yu Yu Hakusho, Dragon Ball. Let's see, what else was kind of heavier at that point?
Well, that would have been right around when Toonami was really picking up steam.
Really picking up steam, yeah. My 7th grade pre-AP literature teacher was super into anime. Like, that was weird because she was like an adult that was into anime at the time. But like, she had Yu-Gi-Oh cards that like we could trade. We would trade with her. Like, this was before Yu-Gi-Oh was banned in the school. Like, because of how like crazy it got. Like, that was a lot of fun.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, like that was probably the heavier years for anime for me.
So KaBlam, talk to us a little bit about that before we flip over and get that on.
God, I think that just KaBlam was like, I think we're still in the group that's like can remember actually going and physically getting like comics in a store.
Oh yeah.
And like, I think that KaBlam was a kind of a different representation of that. It was like a TV show, but it was like a TV show comic that like was almost like a Sunday comic because it was kind of this amalgamation of different things.
And look out, all you Brussels sprouts, because there's the old Loopster right now.
I fucking loved Loopy.
I will say Loopy as a child, like, kind of scared me a little bit because it was a combination of animation and live action.
It was kind of freaky looking.
Yep.
Henry, that's not the flesh. It's just some naked guy.
Yeah, so the whole concept is like
fusing the cartoons and comics, essentially.
Right, like comic books brought to life or animated or whatever. And I think it's such a unique kids show. I still love it. I still like to watch it. It's stupid as shit. So typically I close this out with a music video memory, but we opened up with a music video memory this time, so I'm going to close out with something a little bit different. We talked before the show about really memorable TV moments. Something that has always stuck with you, about watching TV or whatever. Just like, do you have any really memorable TV moments?
Memorable TV moments. I think I brought it up. Like, one of the big things that I remember was like the transition into 1999 into 2000, and like watching the news clip of like this indigenous tribe celebrating the new year on, well, for us it was still December 31st, but it was January 1st on the other side of the world. And I always thought that was just such a cool like concept. And like, that's just something that will still be kind of ingrained into my memory on like, hey, I was actually here to like, well, I mean, I wasn't there, but I was here to see this. But
yeah, Y2K was I mean, it was a big deal. And amidst all of the like excitement of rolling over the odometer, there was this specter. I mean, we all know the story. We were all there. But that specific like New Year's Eve, I guess, isn't really a memory that I have. I don't remember where I was. I don't remember watching it or anything. And that would have been a really big one. So I mean, we were 9 into like, we were just fresh 9. Like that was a weird year for us, and it was just. I can't believe though that I don't remember it at all. And when you said it earlier, I was like, oh my God, it kind of dawned on me. So in honor of that discussion from earlier, I pulled up the ball drop for Y2K, so I figured we could watch that to close us out here.
In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy 2000!
Spoiler alert, the internet did not go down.
The internet did not go down.
Viewed crowd in Washington, but it doesn't
I
look
remember being like really into staying up. I was like, yeah, you know.
inside.
Oh yeah, we were 9, so I would like,
Yeah.
stay up all night.
Could
and
you
then
imagine, man?
not fall asleep, and then my parents would be so angry because I'd go to bed at like 8 in the morning and wouldn't wake up. And they're like, "You're gonna throw off your schedule." And I'm like, "I'm on vacation from school." But that was literally like, we'd be back in school in 3 days. It was something
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It was really fast after New Year's. Yeah. I think that's going to conclude our 4th episode. I keep forgetting the numbers. I'm going to have to count these forever. Oh, God. I don't know how to count past 5. So, yeah, we're gonna close out our 4th episode here. Everybody say bye, Mark.
Bye, guys.
Thanks so much for joining us for this show. I really appreciate it. I had a really good time.
Great. I had a lot of fun with this one. This one was just a lot of humor, just a lot of random bullshit back and forth. So
It's a good one. I appreciate everybody coming by to join us tonight for the show. If you're watching this later on YouTube, like and subscribe. I'm a good boy. I said it twice in a row now. But that's all I've got for tonight. I really appreciate everybody dropping by, and I will see you next time for episode 5. Goodbye.